Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of HMS Sanctuary, watching the stars through the large window. The medical ship moved slowly through space, its white hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. Red crosses marked the sides of the vessel, telling everyone who saw it that this was a ship of healing. Not War. Jake had been captain of the Sanctuary for 3 years. He was a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands. His crew trusted him completely. The ship carried 200 people, all trained to save lives. Dr. Lisa Carter was his chief medical officer, a woman who could perform surgery in the middle of a battle and never lose her calm. Commander Ryan Hayes handled security, making sure the medical teams could do their work safely. The Sanctuary patrolled the neutral zone between human, space, and Zephyrian territory. The Zephyrians were a race of large reptiles who walked on two legs like humans. They had scales instead of skin and yellow eyes that glowed in the dark. Most importantly, they loved to fight. War was their way of life. For months, the Zephyrians had been testing human defenses. They would attack small outposts, then retreat before human warships could respond. They sent raiders to steal supplies and take prisoners. The aliens seemed to be learning human weaknesses, preparing for something bigger. Jake knew the Zephyrians looked down on medical ships. They saw healers as weak. In their culture, the strong survived and the weak died. They could not understand why humans would risk their lives to save strangers. This made medical ships tempting targets for Zephyrian attacks. The communication system buzzed with an urgent message. Lieutenant Mike Peters, the communications officer, turned to Jake with worry in his eyes. "Captain, we're getting a distress signal from Haven's Rest Colony. It's bad, sir, really bad." Jake walked over to the communication station. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was shaky with fear. "This is Governor Paul Williams on Haven's Rest. We have a medical emergency. A plague has broken out in the main city. People are dying fast. We need immediate medical evacuation. Our local doctors can't handle this. Please, we need help now." Dr. Carter appeared on the bridge, having heard the emergency call. She was a woman in her 40s with short brown hair and hands that never stopped moving. "Captain, how many people are we talking about? Governor Williams? How many people need evacuation?" Jake asked. 50,000, maybe more. The plague is spreading through the city like fire. We have maybe hours before everyone is infected. Please, you have to help us." Lisa's face went pale. 50,000 people. That's more than any medical ship has ever handled at once. We'll need to expand our medical bays and convert cargo holds into treatment centers. Ryan Hayes stepped forward. He was a solid man with military training who had served on warships before joining the medical service. "Captain, something feels wrong about this. The timing is too convenient. We're the only medical ship in this sector, and suddenly there's a plague outbreak?" Jake considered this. Ryan's instincts were usually right, but 50,000 people were dying, and the Sanctuary was their only hope. "We can't ignore a medical emergency because we're suspicious. Set course for Haven's Rest, maximum speed." The ship's engines hummed louder as they changed direction. The Sanctuary was not built for speed, but it could move fast when lives were at stake. The medical bays came alive with activity as doctors and nurses prepared for the largest evacuation in human history. Dr. Carter worked with her medical team to prepare treatment areas. They moved equipment, set up temporary beds, and mixed medicines. That might help fight the plague. Everyone knew this would test their skills and equipment to the limit. As they traveled through space, Jake stood in his ready room, looking at star charts. Haven's Rest was on the edge of human space, close to the neutral zone. If the Zephyrians wanted to attack a medical ship, this would be the perfect place. Ryan entered the ready room. "Captain, I've been thinking about the colony. Haven's Rest. has a population of about 60,000. If 50,000 need evacuation, that means the plague hit 80% of the population in just a few hours. That's not how diseases usually spread. Jake nodded slowly. You think this is a trap? I think we need to be ready for anything. The Zephyrians know we won't abandon civilians, even if it means walking into an ambush. They're counting on our compassion. The ship's alarm sounded. Lieutenant Peter's voice came over the intercom. Captain, to the bridge. We're dropping out of hyperspace at Haven's Rest. Jake and Ryan rushed to the bridge. Through the main window, they could see the colony world spinning slowly in space. It looked peaceful from a distance, but Jake knew that 50,000 people were dying on its surface. Scan the system, Jake ordered. The sensor officer, Lieutenant Amy Ross, worked at her station. I'm reading the colony planet. Large population centers show signs of medical emergency. But Captain, I'm also detecting something else. 3 large ships just beyond the asteroid field. They're trying to hide, but their engines are still warm. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Zephyrian ships? Yes, sir. Heavy cruisers by the look of them. They're powered down, but they're definitely there. The trap was sprung. Admiral Crix of the Zephyrian fleet had positioned his ships perfectly. The medical ship had nowhere to run, and 50,000 humans were still dying below Doctor. Carter looked at the readings from the planet. Captain, the medical situation is real. Those people need help now, or they'll all be dead in an hour. Jake stood at the center of the bridge, feeling the weight of impossible choices. Save the people and face certain destruction, or flee and Dali. Let 50,000 innocents die. For a human captain, there was really no choice at all. Red alert, he said quietly. All hands to battle stations. We're going to save those people. The 3 Zephyrian ships came out of hiding like hungry predators. Their dark hulls gleamed with weapon ports, and their engines glowed red as they moved toward the sanctuary. The medical ship looked small and helpless next to the massive war. Vessels. Admiral Crix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Deathstrike. He was a large Zephyrian with dark green scales and scars from many battles. His yellow eyes glowed with satisfaction as he watched the human medical ship through the viewing screen. This would be an easy victory. Admiral, his weapons officer, reported, the human ship is not running. They're holding position above the planet. Crix laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Of course they're not running. Humans are too soft to abandon their sick. This is why they will never be strong like us. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Bright energy beams shot across space and struck the sanctuary's shields. The medical ship shook under the attack, but its defenses held. Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the bridge lights flickered. Shields at 70%, reported Lieutenant Ross. They're not trying to destroy us, Captain. They're trying to disable us. Ryan Hayes checked his tactical display. They want to capture us alive. Probably plan to use us as hostages or propaganda. Admiral Crix's face appeared on the main screen. His reptilian features were twisted in a cruel smile. Human medical ship, you are surrounded. Your weapons are weak. Your shields are failing. Surrender now, and we will allow your crew to live as prisoners. Jake stood up straight, looking directly at the alien commander. We have 50,000 sick people to evacuate. We're not going anywhere. Crix's laugh was even louder this time. 50,000? You would die for strangers? This is why your species is weak. The strong survive, the weak die. This is the natural way. Dr. Carter worked frantically in the medical bay. The ship's shaking made it hard to prepare equipment, but she and her team kept working. She activated the emergency medical protocols, expanding the ship's treatment capacity. Cargo holds were converted into treatment areas, and every available. Space was prepared for patience. "How long until the shuttles can start the evacuation?" Jake asked over the intercom. 20 minutes, Captain. But we need that time without being shot at. The shuttles can't launch if the ship is under attack." The Zephyrian ships moved closer, their weapons charging for another strike. Admiral Crix's voice came through the speakers again. "You have 2 minutes to surrender. After that, we will take your ship by force." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was scared, but they were ready to fight. They all knew what was at stake. "Mr. Hayes, what are our options?" Ryan studied his tactical display. "We have defensive weapons, but nothing that can match their firepower. However, I'm seeing something interesting. That asteroid field where they were hiding has a lot of old ship wreckage. There might be some useful materials there." Lieutenant Peters suddenly looked up from his communication station. "Captain, I'm getting messages from the planet. The plague is spreading faster than expected. They have maybe 30 minutes before it becomes impossible to treat." Dr. Carter's voice came through the intercom, tight with urgency. "Captain, I need to know right now. Are we evacuating those people or not? I need to start treatment protocols immediately." Jake felt the weight of command like never before. 50,000 lives hung in the balance. His crew was looking to him for answers. The Zephyrian ships were closing in for the kill. "Admiral Crix," Jake said, his voice carrying. "Across space." "You've made a mistake." The alien commander tilted his head. "What mistake is that, human? You threatened our patients." Jake turned to his crew. "Activate emergency medical protocols. All hands to emergency stations." He paused, looking at each of his officers. "Mercy protocols are now in effect." The bridge lights changed from normal white to deep red. Throughout the ship, similar changes were happening. Panels slid open, revealing equipment that looked nothing like medical supplies. The crew moved with sudden purpose, their actions smooth. And coordinated. Dr. Carter sealed the medical bay and activated containment fields. Her medical team put on special suits that looked more like armor than surgical gear. In the cargo holds, what appeared to be medical supply containers opened to reveal something very different. Ryan Hayes smiled grimly as he watched his tactical display. "Admiral, you should have done your research. Medical ships carry more than just bandages and medicine." The sanctuary's hull began to change. White panels slid away, revealing darker armor underneath. The red crosses on the sides of the ship glowed brighter, but now they looked less like symbols of healing and more like warning signs. Admiral Crix watched in confusion as the human ship transformed. What are they doing? Medical ships don't have weapons. His tactical officer, a younger Zephyrian with bright yellow scales, studied the readings. "Admiral, I'm detecting energy signatures that don't match medical equipment. Something is very wrong here." Jake's voice came through the communication system again, but this time it was different. Colder. "Admiral Crix, you have threatened the lives of 50,000 innocent people. You have attacked a medical vessel engaged in humanitarian rescue. You have exactly one chance to withdraw your ships and leave this system." Crix's eyes blazed with anger. "You dare threaten me? You're nothing but healers and soft-hearted fools." "No," Jake said quietly. "We're healers who know exactly how to break what we've learned to fix. We're doctors who understand every weakness in your biology. We're medics who can take apart your ships with the same precision we use to save lives." The sanctuary's weapon. Ports opened, but what emerged wasn't typical ship weapons. Strange devices that looked like oversized medical scanners pointed at the Zephyrian ships. The hull bristled with equipment that seemed to pulse with its own energy. Dr. Carter's voice came through the ship's intercom, speaking to the crew. "All medical personnel, remember your training. The Hippocratic Oath says first, do no harm to those under our care. Everyone else is fair game. Admiral Crix realized that something had gone terribly wrong with his simple ambush. The human medical ship was not behaving like the easy target he had expected. His own tactical officer was reporting readings that made no sense. "Admiral, the younger Zephyrian said, his voice shaking slightly, "their weapons are targeting our life support systems. They're not trying to destroy our ships. They're trying to kill us." Jake Morrison stood at the center of the bridge, his kind eyes now hard as steel. "Admiral, this is your final warning. Leave now or learn why human medical ships are called Mercy." Admiral Crix made his choice. All ships attack. Destroy that medical ship. The 3 Zephyrian vessels opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space toward the sanctuary. But the human ship was no longer. The same vessel that had arrived at Haven's Rest. The sanctuary's new weapons fired back, but they were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Instead of explosive blasts, thin beams of light struck the alien ships with surgical precision. The beams cut through armor like a scalpel through skin, targeting specific systems and leaving the rest untouched. "What are those weapons?" Admiral Crix demanded. His tactical officer studied the readings with growing fear. "They appear to be medical lasers, Admiral, but they've been modified. They're cutting through our hull at the molecular level." Dr. Carter coordinated the attack from the medical bay while simultaneously preparing for the evacuation. She moved between treatment stations, her hands steady despite the ship's movement. "Target their life support systems first," she ordered. "Then their weapons. Leave their engines functional. We might need to board them." The sanctuary launched a swarm of small objects that looked like medical drones. But these drones moved with deadly purpose, attaching themselves to the Zephyrian ship's hulls. Once connected, they began releasing clouds of microscopic machines. "Admiral," the weapons officer shouted, "something is eating through our hull. Our armor is dissolving." The nanobots that normally helped human doctors repair tissue were now programmed to break down the molecular structure of Zephyrian ship armor. They spread across the hull like a disease, creating weak points that the medical lasers could exploit. Jake watched the battle from the bridge, his expression calm but determined. "Mr. Hayes, prepare boarding parties. We'll need to secure those ships to prevent them from self-destructing." Ryan nodded and activated his security teams. But these weren't ordinary ship security officers. They were combat medics, trained to fight in the most dangerous conditions while still being able to save lives. They wore armor that looked like medical suits, but moved like soldiers. Deathstrike shuddered as the human weapons found their targets. Systems throughout the ship began failing as the surgical strikes hit vital components. Admiral Crix realized that the humans weren't trying to destroy his ships. They were trying to capture them alive. "They want us alive," he said with growing horror. "They want to study us." Dr. Carter's voice came through the communication system, speaking directly to the Zephyrian crews. "Attention Zephyrian vessels. You are now breathing air contaminated with medical nanobots. They are currently scanning your biology and physiology. In approximately 10 minutes, they will begin attacking your respiratory systems." The alien crews panicked. They had never faced an enemy that could attack them from the inside. Their own air was betraying them. "However," Dr. Carter continued, "I am a doctor. I have taken an oath to preserve life. If you cease your attack and allow us to evacuate the civilians below, I will provide the antidote to neutralize the nanobots." Admiral Crix's second-in-command, Commander Vex, turned to him with fear in his yellow eyes. "Admiral, we cannot fight this. They have turned healing into war. Our weapons are useless against medicine." But Crix was too proud to surrender. "Never. We are warriors. We do not bow to soft-hearted healers." The sanctuary shuttles launched toward the planet, even as the battle continued. The medical ship provided cover fire, its precise weapons, keeping the Zephyrian ships disabled, but not destroyed. Dr. Carter had split her attention between the battle and the evacuation, managing both with the efficiency of a skilled surgeon. First wave of shuttles away, Lieutenant Peters reported. They're heading for the main population centers. Jake nodded. Time to evacuation completion? At current rate, 47 minutes, Captain. But we need to keep those ships disabled for the entire operation. The Sanctuary's weapons shifted targets, now focusing on the Zephyrian ship's communication systems. The aliens found themselves cut off from each other, unable to coordinate their attacks. Each ship was fighting alone, blind to what the others were doing. Ryan Hayes led his boarding party toward the nearest Zephyrian ship. They moved in small shuttles that looked like medical transport vessels, but carried enough firepower to take down a warship. The shuttles attached to the alien hull like medical pods connecting to a patient. Hull breach in Sector 7, the Zephyrian weapons officer reported. They're cutting through our bulkheads. Admiral Crix watched his screens as human boarding. Parties entered his ship. They moved through the corridors like doctors making rounds, checking each room systematically. But instead of treating patients, they were neutralizing crew members with precise, non-lethal weapons. The humans used gas that put the Zephyrians to sleep, stunning weapons that paralyzed without permanent damage, and containment fields that held prisoners without harm. They fought like healers, trying to preserve life even as they won the battle. Commander Vex fell unconscious as human gas filled the bridge. Admiral Crix put on his emergency breathing mask, but he knew it would only delay the inevitable. The humans had turned their own ship into a medical facility, and the Zephyrians, with a patient's Dr. Carter, appeared on the Deathstrike's main screen, her face calm and professional. Admiral Crix, your crew is now under my medical care. They are unconscious but unharmed. I am treating them for nanobotic poisoning and combat stress. They will recover completely. Why? Crix demanded. Why do you heal your enemies? Because we are doctors first, warriors second. We fight to protect our patients, not to destroy our enemies. You threatened 50,000 innocent lives. We responded with the minimum force necessary to stop you. The first shuttles returned from the planet, carrying plague victims. The Sanctuary's medical bays came alive with activity as doctors and nurses worked to treat the sick. The same people who had just disabled 3 warships were now saving lives. With equal skill, Jake stood on the bridge, watching the evacuation continue. Status report. All 3 enemy ships are secure, Ryan reported. Their crews are unconscious, but stable. No permanent injuries. Medical evacuation is proceeding. On schedule, Dr. Carter added. We've treated over 10,000 patients already. The plague is responding to our treatments. Admiral Crix sat alone on his bridge, his crew unconscious around him. He watched through the screens as human medical personnel worked to save both his crew and the plague victims. The same hands that had destroyed his ships were now healing the wounded. For the first time in his life, the Zephyrian admiral began to understand what mercy really meant. The evacuation continued for 3 hours. Shuttle after shuttle brought plague victims from Haven's Rest to the Sanctuary. The medical ships expanded treatment areas filled with patients, but Dr. Carter's team worked with incredible efficiency. They had turned the entire ship into a massive hospital. Admiral Crix watched from his disabled bridge as human medical personnel moved between his unconscious crew and the plague victims. The same doctors who had attacked his ships were now treating his wounded officers. He could not understand this behavior. Why do you heal us? He asked Dr. Carter over the communication system. Dr. Carter looked up from a patient she was treating. Her hands were steady as she worked, showing no sign of the stress from the recent battle. Because you are hurt, and I am a doctor. Your species, your actions, your intentions, none of that matters when you need medical help. But we attacked. We tried to kill you. Yes, and we stopped you. Now you need medical care, so we provide it. This is what mercy means. Admiral Crix's tactical officer, the young Zephyrian with bright yellow scales, began to wake up. He looked around in confusion, expecting to be in a prison cell. Instead, he found himself on a medical bed with human doctors checking his vital signs. "Admiral," he said weakly, "where are we?" "Still on our ship," Crix replied. "But the humans have taken control. They are ... They are treating our injuries." Young officer tried to sit up, but a human nurse gently pushed him back down. "Please rest," she said in carefully pronounced Zephyrian. "You inhaled toxic gas. Your lungs need time to heal." "You speak our language?" the officer asked in surprise. "Medical personnel learn many languages," the nurse explained. "We treat patients from dozens of species. We have to be able to communicate with them." Commander Ryan Hayes appeared on the bridge with 2 of his security officers. But instead of weapons, they carried medical supplies. "Admiral Crix, Dr. Carter wants to examine you. You've been breathing recycled air for several hours, and she's concerned about your health." "I will not be examined by human doctors," Crix said proudly. "That's your choice," Ryan replied. "But you should know that 3 of your crew members have lung infections from the gas exposure. Without treatment, they could die. Dr. Carter is the only doctor in this system who knows how to treat Zephyrian physiology." Admiral Crix felt a cold fear in his stomach. "You would let my crew die?" "We would never let anyone die if we could." "Prevent it," Ryan said firmly. "But we can't force you to accept medical care. That's your decision to make." The sanctuary's main medical bay had become a wonder of organized chaos. Human doctors worked alongside medical computers and robotic assistants to treat thousands of patients. The plague victims were responding well to treatment, but they needed constant monitoring. Dr. Carter moved between treatment stations, checking on patients from both the planet and the Zephyrian ships. She treated a human child with plague symptoms, then moved to examine a Zephyrian officer with chemical burns. Her care was the same for both. "Doctor," one of her assistants called out, "we have a problem. The Zephyrian admiral is refusing treatment, but his crew needs specialized care for their species." "I'll handle it," Dr. Carter said. She walked to the communication station and opened a channel to the Death Strike. "Admiral Crix, I need to speak with you." The alien commander's scarred face appeared on the screen. "What you want, human?" "I want to save the lives of your crew. They are suffering from chemical poisoning that could cause permanent damage. I need your permission to treat them with Zephyrian-specific medicines." "Why do you need my permission?" "Because you are their commanding officer, and they are prisoners of war. Under human medical law, I must have command consent before treating enemy personnel with experimental drugs." Admiral Crix stared at her. "You follow laws even when treating your enemies?" "Especially when treating our enemies. Ethics don't disappear. During wartime, Admiral, they become more important." The Zephyrian looked at his unconscious crew members. Some were breathing with difficulty, their scales turning dark colors that indicated serious illness. "What will happen to them if they are not treated?" "They will develop permanent lung damage. Some may die. Their immune systems are shutting down from the nanobotic exposure. And if they are treated, they will make a full recovery. No permanent effects." Admiral Crix closed his eyes. Everything he had believed about humans was wrong. They were not weak. They were not soft. They were something far more dangerous. They were compassionate killers who followed rules even in war. "Treat them," he said quietly. "Thank you, Admiral." I'll need some information about Zephyrian biology to adjust the treatments. Will you help me? I will tell you what you need to know. Captain Jake Morrison watched the evacuation from the bridge. The final shuttles were arriving from Haven's Rest, carrying the last of the plague victims. 50,000 people had been saved, and not a single life had been lost. Captain, Lieutenant Peters reported, we're receiving a transmission from Zephyrian High Command. They're demanding to know what happened to Admiral Crix's fleet. Put them through, Jake ordered. The screen showed a massive Zephyrian with dark blue scales and scars covering his face. I am Fleet Admiral Torx. You are holding our ships illegally. Release them immediately. Admiral, I am Captain Morrison of the medical ship Sanctuary. We responded to a medical emergency and were attacked by 3 of your vessels. We defended ourselves and are now providing medical care to your wounded personnel. Medical care? Admiral Torx looked confused. You are treating our crews? Of course. They were injured in the battle. We are doctors, but they attacked you. That doesn't change the fact that they need medical attention. We treat all patients equally, regardless of species or circumstances. Fleet Admiral Torx leaned forward. What do you want in exchange for? Their release? Nothing, Jake said simply. When their medical treatment is complete, they are free to go. We will also provide full medical records so your doctors can continue their care. You want nothing? No prisoners exchange? No territorial concessions? We want you to understand something, Admiral. Human medical ships are not military targets. We are protected by interstellar law because we save lives, not take them. But if you attack our medical ships, if you threaten our patients, we will respond with force. We are healers, but we are also protectors. Admiral Torx studied the human captain's face. I am beginning to understand. You call your medical ships mercy, not because you are weak, but because you show mercy to those who do not threaten your patients. Exactly. And we show no mercy to those who do. The communication ended. Admiral Crix, who had been listening, finally understood what he had walked into. He had attacked the most dangerous ships in the human fleet, not because they were heavily armed, but because they were crewed by people who understood the value of life so completely that they would kill to protect it. Admiral, his tactical officer said, now fully awake and breathing normally, what do we do now? We learn, Admiral. Crix replied. We learn that there are different kinds of strength, and the humans possess the most dangerous kind of all. 3 days later, the Sanctuary finished treating all the plague victims from Haven's Rest. The medical ship's expanded treatment areas were finally quiet, filled with patients who were recovering well. The plague had been stopped, and 50,000 lives had been saved. Admiral Crix stood in the Sanctuary's main medical bay, watching human doctors work. His crew was almost fully recovered, and the alien commander had learned more about humans in these 3 days than in years of own. WARFARE Dr. Carter approached him, carrying a medical tablet. Admiral, your crew is ready for discharge. All their injuries have healed, and there will be no permanent effects from the gas exposure. Dr. Carter, Admiral Crix said slowly, I must ask you something. During the battle, you could have killed. You saw. Your weapons were precise enough to target our hearts, our brains. Why did you choose to capture us instead? The human doctor considered her answer carefully. Because killing you would not have helped my patients. You were threatening them, so we stopped you. Once you were no longer a threat, killing you would have served no purpose. But we are your enemies. You were our enemies when you threatened innocent people. Now you are patients who need care. The difference is important. Admiral Crix looked around the medical bay. Human doctors were treating patients from dozens of different species. Some were former enemies, others were neutral traders, and some were human colonists. All received the same level of care. In our culture, he said, the strong survive and the weak die. We do not understand mercy. That's not mercy, Dr. Carter replied. That's selection. Mercy is when you have the power to destroy your enemies and choose not to. Mercy is when you heal those who tried to hurt you. Captain Jake Morrison entered the medical bay, followed by Commander Ryan Hayes. They had come to see the Zephyr in. Crew off. Admiral Crix, your ships are fully repaired. Our engineering teams fixed all the damage from the battle. You repaired our ships? Admiral Crix asked in amazement. Of course. We couldn't send you home in damaged vessels. Someone might think we mistreated prisoners, and that would reflect poorly on human medical services. Ryan Hayes handed Admiral Crix a datapad. These are the complete medical records for your crew. Your doctors will need this information to monitor their recovery. We've also included the formula for the antidote to the nanobots in case of future exposure. You are giving us the antidote? But that was your most effective weapon. It was never meant to be a weapon, Ryan explained. Those nanobots were designed to treat injuries. We modified them temporarily to stop your attack, but their real purpose is healing. The antidote ensures they return to their original programming. Admiral Crix took the datapad with shaking hands. I do not understand you humans. You could have kept us as prisoners. You could have taken our ships. You could have demanded tribute from our government. Instead, you heal us and send us home. That's what medical ships do, Jake said simply. We save lives and send people home to their families. The Zephyrian crew gathered in the shuttle bay, preparing to return to their ships. They looked different now, not like the proud warriors who had attacked the sanctuary, but like patients who had been well cared for. They moved carefully, still recovering from their injuries, but they were alive and healthy. Admiral Crix's tactical officer, the young Zephyrian with bright yellow scales, approached Dr. Carter. Doctor, I want to thank you. You saved my life. You're welcome, she replied. Try not to attack any more medical ships. I will not, he promised. I will tell others what I learned here. Medical ships are not weak targets. They are the most dangerous ships in space. Why do you think that? Dr. Carter asked, curious. Because they are crewed by people who understand life so well that they can take it away with surgical precision. But they choose to save it instead. That is true power. Admiral Crix overheard this conversation and nodded. My officer is correct. We thought you were weak because you heal instead of hurt. We were wrong. You are strong because you choose to heal even when you could destroy. The Zephyrian crew returned to their ships. As they prepared to leave, Admiral Crix sent one final message to the sanctuary. Captain Morrison, Dr. Carter, Commander Hayes, I want you to know that this encounter will change how my people view humans. We thought mercy was weakness. Now we understand that mercy is strength under control. Jake responded from the bridge. Admiral, we hope this leads to better relations between our species. But understand this, if you or any other Zephyrian force attacks human medical ships or threatens our patients, we will respond the same way. We are healers, but we are also protectors. I understand, Captain. I will make sure my government understands as well. The 3 Zephyrian ships powered up their engines and began to leave the system. Admiral Crix watched the sanctuary grow, smaller on his viewing screen, but he knew he would never forget what he had learned. Fleet. Admiral Torx was waiting when Admiral Crix returned to Zephyrian space. The massive alien commander listened carefully as Crix described the encounter with the human medical ship. They healed your crew after defeating you in battle? Admiral Torx asked. They did more than that, Crix replied. They treated us like patients, not prisoners. They repaired our ships, gave us medical records, and even provided the antidote to their own weapons. They could have destroyed us, but they chose to heal us instead. Admiral Torx was quiet for a long moment. What do you recommend? I recommend that we issue new orders to all Zephyrian forces. Human medical ships are to be considered off-limits. They are not weak targets. They are the most dangerous vessels in the human fleet, precisely because they choose not to use their full power. Explain? A human medical ship carries doctors who know exactly how to kill every species in the galaxy. They know which organs to target, which chemicals will stop a heart, which frequencies will disrupt the nervous system. But they use this knowledge to save lives instead of taking them. When you threaten their patients, you face enemies who understand your biology better than you do. Fleet Admiral Torx nodded slowly. I see. They are dangerous not because of their weapons, but because of their knowledge and their restraint. Exactly. And when that restraint is removed, when their patients are threatened, they become unstoppable. They fight with the precision of surgeons and the compassion of healers. They disable rather than destroy, capture rather than kill, and heal rather than harm. But they will do all of this to protect innocent lives. Admiral Torx stood and walked to his command station. Send orders to all fleet commanders. Human medical ships marked with red crosses are to be given maximum distance and respect. Any commander who attacks a medical ship will face court-martial. Sir, Admiral Crix said, there's something else. The humans call their medical ships Mercy for a reason. It's not because they're merciful to everyone. It's because they show mercy to those who don't threaten their patients, and no mercy to those who do. None at all. Meanwhile, back on the sanctuary, Dr. Carter was updating her medical log. Captain Morrison and Commander Hayes sat with her in the quiet medical bay, watching the stars through the large windows. Doctor, Jake said, how do you feel about what happened? We turned healing into warfare. Dr. Carter looked at her hands, the same hands that had coordinated the attack on the Zephyrian ships and saved 50,000 lives. Captain, the Hippocratic Oath says first, do no harm to those under our care. It doesn't say we can't harm those who threaten our patients. But we're supposed to be healers, not warriors. We are healers, she replied firmly. Everything we did was in service of healing. We stopped a threat to our patients using the minimum force necessary. We captured rather than killed. We treated the wounded, even our enemies. We followed medical ethics throughout the entire encounter. Ryan Hayes leaned back in his chair. The Zephyrians learned an important lesson today. They thought medical ships were easy targets because we're pacifists. They didn't understand that we're not pacifists. We're healers who will fight when necessary. There's a difference? Jake asked. A big difference, Dr. Carter explained. Pacifists refuse to fight under any circumstances. Healers fight only to protect life. When someone threatens our patients, we become the most dangerous enemies they could face because we understand exactly how to stop them with minimal harm. Jake nodded, beginning to understand. So when we call our medical ships Mercy, we're not advertising weakness. We're giving a warning, Ryan added. We're saying that mercy is what we offer to those who don't threaten innocent lives. Cross that line, and you'll discover what happens when mercy is withdrawn. Dr. Carter closed her medical log and looked out at the stars. Today, we saved 50,000 lives from a plague and captured 3 enemy warships without killing a single enemy soldier. We turned weapons of war into tools of healing, and we turned healing into the most effective form of warfare. That's what human medical ships do. And that's why the aliens finally understand, Jake said softly. Why our medical ships are called Mercy. The sanctuary continued its patrol through space, its white hull gleaming with red crosses that now carried a different meaning. To those who needed help, the crosses promised healing and salvation. To those who threatened the innocent, they promised something else entirely. In the weeks that followed, word spread through